Something that I've been talking about for a while is that Errol Spence Jr. mastered Derrick James's style. He's literally a carbon copy of what Derrick James used to be, but he's a better athlete. He's a more athletic guy than Derrick James was. But there's a lot of similarities when you watch them fight. And I found the clip, and I seen this fight a while ago, but I seen the clip on here, and I'm gonna pop up again here on Twitter. Salute to According to Boxing. Derrick James and Errol Spence share a lot of the same strengths and weaknesses. Of course, Derrick James is an orthodox fighter, right? But they're very, very similar in a lot of ways. And in this fight against Joe Lipsy, who was 23-0 at the time, I think. And I believe Derrick James was 15-0. I think he was two undefeated fighters fighting around this particular time. This was back in like 90. I think this is like 94, I believe. But yeah, let's see.
I have a hard time picturing the fourth year. And in case our people haven't noticed, Joe Lipsy's a southpaw, and James has had 2 victories over southpaws as a pro, back against Zeb Coleman and
really textbook, hands straight up.
93. Jesus Valderas was who
very similar to Spence. You could just literally just put Spence in there, and it'll be him basically. You know what I'm saying? They both like to just. What I noticed watching this fight for the first time is that Joe Lipsy, as you can see, is a southpaw. Very similar to Errol Spence. If he can't get that jab off, he's not going to really be too comfortable throwing anything else. See, when he does, he gets countered. And what Derrick James struggles against in this fight is the counter punching of this dude as the fight goes on. It seemed like the combination punching is what gave Derrick James problems. I think that particular style has issues with combination punchers. And as this fight goes, right, I believe this clip is only the first and the last round, but Derrick James seemed to have trouble with counter punching. But he did have a big moment in this first round. When he decided to really just let it go, he made something happen. And as you can see here, he's going to start letting it go, start pressing forward, popping the jab out. He's getting warmed up. Boom, he's throwing that right hand. You know, you could tell he about to throw that right hand again. You could kind of see he about to throw it. Look at, boom, he throws it, and he puts him down, right? That's something Errol Spence is going to have to do in this fight with Bud. He's going to have to take some chances. Derrick James took a chance there, and if you listen to the commentary, he was known at this particular time to not be a big puncher, but he was still able to get that right hand off due to his timing. And now this is the last round. Derrick James been kind of, you know, he barely got hit there. His legs is totally gone at this point. Yeah, it was a pretty bad showing for Derrick James pretty much after the first round, you know. But look, man, you know, I'm not watching this to knock Derrick James or anything like that. I don't care about stuff like that. You know, I'm looking at the style and how him and Errol Spence shared a lot of similarities. Now, I'm not saying that Errol Spence is going to get stopped or anything like that. You know, I think Derrick James is a hell of a coach, by the way, right? You know, he may not have, you know, reached a certain pinnacle as a professional boxer, but as a trainer, he's regarded as one of the best. And that was likely his calling anyway, right? But as a fighter, when you watch these two guys, and I'm going to try to have something when I start editing this video, put Spence on the side of him working. But they're really similar, man. And I believe this is like the only video that Derrick James have on the internet of him in a professional fight. I believe this is on a Bernard Hopkins. Now, what card was this on? I forgot what card this was on. But they're very similar. Very, very, very similar. The way they hold their hands up. I don't think Errol Spence would have did anything like that right there, but it's a fight. A lot of times when you watching these fights, man, a lot of things are really situational, bro. You could say do this, do this, do that, but really, when you're in there, it's a lot different. You may not see it like a person on the outside sees it. They make it look easy when you're in the ring, but when you actually in that ring, it's nowhere near as easy as it looks. Let alone to actually look good doing it too, right? To not let your emotions get involved, to get sloppy in there, to really look good and stay on course. But this is only the first of the 9th round. And as the fight goes, Derrick James had the first good round. But as the fight starts to go, he starts to get hit more and more. He's on the back foot more and more. And he started to really succumb to the counter. I'm sorry, I keep saying counter punch. The combination punching more and more from Joe Lipsy. And Joe Lipsy wasn't necessarily known as he was a brawler, they said earlier on in his career. And he transitioned to more of a thinking man's fighter, setting up his shots and kind of boxing more and throwing combinations, educated combinations. So, this is a fight between two undefeated fighters, man. Nowhere near the level of Spence and Crawford, right? But the style is what I'm looking at. Now, Joe Lipsy don't fight anything like Terence Crawford, but he is somewhat of I would say he's not your traditional, like, straight up and down boxer, right? But he's not like Crawford either. But I wish they had the other rounds, so you can kind of see how the fight played out as an entirety. But it's on YouTube for you guys to go check it out. Derrick James versus Joe Lipsy is on YouTube. For the guys who didn't know, this is Derrick James' fight, man. And if you the first thing you probably notice watching him, he's very, very similar to Errol Spence. Of course, he's a bigger guy. Of course, Errol Spence is probably the more athletic guy, better athlete, right? But very, very similar. And Errol Spence did a good job of mastering the style. Derrick James did a good job of teaching him this style. However, with this style, this very, very straightforward approach be effective against a guy like Terence Crawford? One way, just watching it, right? One thing I noticed that this style would be really effective if a guy knew how to fight too. And I'm not saying Derrick James don't know how to fight, but I think when the going got tough in this particular fight, I think if he knew how to fight, it probably would have been a different outcome, So that's why I say having your own book is kind of good. Being able to box and being able to fight is good, because there's going to be times where you're going to have to fight in there. Could Errol Spence fight? Yeah, Errol Spence could fight. Errol Spence could fight better than Derrick James. I think Errol Spence Jr. is a better overall boxer and fighter than Derrick James was. Derrick James' calling was to be a world-class trainer. Errol Spence calling is to be a world-class fighter, and it just works. But that particular style, I still feel will struggle against a guy like Terence Crawford, who has a wide variety of skills, right? A wide punch variety. Terence Crawford's doing some of everything in there, and we've seen Terence Crawford do some of everything, and I don't think we've seen the best of Bud just yet. So this is gonna be a really interesting fight. This is just something that I've seen for some years, and I always stated that Errol Spence and Derrick James are very similar. He's pretty much a Derrick James clone, except he's a southpaw. And man, will this style be effective against a combination puncher, a counter puncher, a guy that can punch with both hands? We go see. I think the style will have trouble, but will a man be able to overcome that style, right? Will Errol Spence himself overcome that style? And this is why I say Errol Spence will have to just leave it all in the ring. I think stylistically it's a bad fight. So Errol Spence will have to be in the best shape of his life and be willing to take one to give one and do whatever it takes to beat Terence Crawford. I don't think it's going to be him going up in there trying to outbox Bud or anything like that. Nah, it's going to be a battle of attrition for him in order for him to get the victory. And Terence Crawford already told you what he got to do. He just got to keep a cool head and do what he do, But Spence, I think the goal for him will be to try to lull Crawford into a dogfight and keep it that way. So that'll be his best shot, because Crawford just has too many abilities, too much agility. And we go see, man. But But yeah, Derrick James, man, very similar to Errol Spence. He did a good job of molding Errol Spence to, fight with a very traditional textbook style. The body shot looks very similar to Errol Spence body work. When he threw the body shot when Lipsy came in close, it looks very similar to Errol Spence. But yeah, will that style work against Terence Crawford? We gonna see. Like, subscribe, holla at your boy. Peace out.